broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
We're clubbing out.
My goodness.
Woo! Hey guys.
It's a talented kid. Ooh, we got a club action.
Lights.
This is crazy.
Isn't this fun, Rich?
I'm loving this.
We have a good time here at AfterBuzz.
This is the best experience of my life. Why, when you hear them in your ears, you think you can sing with them, but I can't?
But I think you're a better singer than I am.
Oh, I appreciate you.
Hey guys, it is your host, Megan Stecher. We are here doing Spotlight On with the man, the myth, the legend, Rich Wilkerson Jr.
Come on. Cue in the applause. It's not there, but I'm doing it anyways.
You guys might be familiar with him from his new show on Oxygen, Rich in... They gave us applause.
There they are.
Thank you, Zach. From his new show, Rich in Faith on Oxygen, he's also the author of Sandcastle Kings. Get your copy now at bookstores. And lead pastor of Vous Church in Miami. You are a busy man.
Come on, a lot of things happening.
And you guys might know him best, might look a little familiar, as the guy who married Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. Hot pastor.
Well, I received that. Thank you. We always tell my wife, I'm like, babe, come on. And she always, I always try to get her to agree. So she's the best.
Yeah. So when the whole Leonardo DiCaprio comparison happened right after the wedding, what was Don Cherie saying?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, babe, look at what they're saying. You mean you need to say this to me more often. We just joke about it. Honestly, Leonardo DiCaprio is like my favorite actor of all time.
Really?
And so I'm in my 30s now, and so I'll take any compliment I can get. I'm losing my hair, I'm getting wrinkles, and gravity sucking me down fast. So I like when people say nice things.
Aw. Who picked out the robes you wore for their wedding?
That was completely Kanye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they signify anything? Like, was anything on them kind of mean anything specifically religiously?
I don't think so.
Or?
I think it was just more so about just fitting the vibe of what they were looking for, and it was cool.
Ceremonial.
I don't wear robes much, but when I do, they're really cool ones.
But when you do.
But when I do.
Well, let's take it back. Let's take it way back into time. You are from West Coast, Washington?
Yeah, I was born, man, you've done some research.
Honey, let me tell you, it's been a long week.
Come on, doing your homework. I was born in Tacoma, Washington, outside of Seattle. I was there till I was 14. And I was raised in a preacher's home, a pastor's home. My grandfather's a pastor, my great-grandfather's a pastor. And so we grew up pretty quiet in a kind of a big northwest Tacoma. My grandfather pastored a church called Life Center. And so I grew up in that till I was 14. And then at 14, my dad said, hey, we're moving the family from Tacoma to Miami. I'm going to take over a little inner city urban church in Miami. And so my whole world was completely shaken at that moment, but it was all for the best.
Perfect. And you have three brothers.
Three brothers.
So two are pastors elsewhere.
Yep.
One in Harlem, another out in Washington?
Back in the old stomping grounds right there in Tacoma, downtown Tacoma, Life Center,
horrible.
at my grandfather's church, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So really strong family in the faith. You're fourth generation pastor? Was there ever a question that you wouldn't go into the family business?
Oh yeah, certainly. I think my dad's the best. He really is. He's like the greatest encourager, cheerleader, supporter, and he's the best. And he always said, hey, I don't know how you're gonna make money one day, and I don't know what your job's gonna be, but you always preach the gospel. But he said that in the light of going, you don't have to be a pastor, you don't have to do this by any means. And so from a very young age, I remember always being sensitive towards God, towards people. And then junior high, kind of high school age, I was like, I don't think that's really for me. Then at 17, I had what I would call a God encounter sort of moment where I just felt like the Lord spoke to me and just said, how long are you going to run from your calling? I made a decision, I think it must have been January of 2002, 17 years of age, in Australia at a conference that my dad was speaking at. And then literally a few months later, I met Dawn Cherie at 17, and I never looked back.
Rest is history.
There we go.
So I listened to a bunch of messages from Vous Church, the Vous Church podcast. And in one of them, you were saying that your brother Graham is the reason you believe in God, I believe is what you were saying, or why you have such a strong faith.
Yeah. He's one of the reasons. I think there's lots of different reasons, more and more, that why I believe in God. But my older brother, we were saying, John Fulton, he pastors a church in Tacoma. My youngest brother, Taylor, is graduating from Princeton Seminary right now. I like to throw that out there because I didn't graduate from there. But if you've got a brother that does, you can kind of like tag on and go, I'm smart as well. And he's planting a church in Harlem, of all places. He's married. But the brother right beneath me, his name's Graham. And he just celebrated his 29th birthday. I can't believe it. But when he was 6 months of age, he was misdiagnosed with spinal meningitis. And it took his life. He was out for over 10 minutes, and they're trying to resuscitate him. And somehow, I would call it a miracle, but by the grace of God, with the doctor's help, he was revived. But with that, so much loss of oxygen to the brain, they said he would be, handicap, a vegetable forever in terms of not walking, talking, seeing, hearing. And he's had lots of challenges throughout his life, but he walks, he talks, he can see, he can hear. And it's definitely slowed him down. He definitely has lots of different challenges. But just watching his life, watching how my parents responded to that tragedy, and seeing how God has brought good through it, is just one of the many reasons why I believe there is a God. But I believe that there was a miracle in Graham's life. And so wish you could meet him. You'd love him a lot.
He's
on the show.
Great on the show.
Oh, isn't he funny?
He is the cutest, most fun thing. Like the episode where Dawn Cherie's cooking chicken piccata.
Yes.
And he's in there with the hammer, like helping out, making the chicken. He's adorable.
He's hilarious, and he's the best guy. Everyone's like, we got to give him his own show. I'm like, he would crush it,
Shoe shopping with you.
Yeah, you got it.
He's adorable. So your brother, is it Taylor who's in Harlem?
Yep, Taylor.
So on the show, you had a great conversation with him, I guess on the rooftop of his new apartment. And you were saying, this planting a church stuff is so much harder than I ever thought it would be. What has been so hard about starting a new church?
Yeah, I think there's so many different facets to that, and so many different reasons why it is hard. I think for me, being a man of faith, I think the first part of it, there's a new spiritual weight, for sure, that it's hard to even really put into words. But you've got people that are looking to you, you've got people that you're doing life with, and you sense real responsibility. Like, you sense there's a new spiritual weight that I'm carrying, and I don't think it's for anybody. I think that you got to feel called to it. You got to believe that God has you there for a bigger purpose. But then I also think the practical things of just, man, I feel like I'm underwater. There's a level of just the planning and the plotting. It's not just getting up and giving a talk, especially these days. It's like we've started this whole past year has really been this journey, and we started with just a handful of people, and you're giving vision constantly, and you're trying to develop leaders within the community. You're also trying to teach the faith, and where do you meet at? We started in my apartment, but that wasn't big enough. And then we were at the Miami Rescue Mission. That's not big enough. And then you're in Miami where real estate's through the roof, and you're just trying to do a lot of moving parts. And so it's a nonstop thing. And I just think you care so much about it, and I think for me, it hasn't just been hard, it's been impossible, but that's who God is. God's the God who takes the impossible, turns it into possible. And so there's a real level of complete surrender and complete trust going, I really know that I can't do this on my own. I really know that I need God to intervene. I need God to show up. And that's really been the story thus far of Vous Church, is that every time we've gotten to an obstacle where it's like, we don't know what we're going to do now, God's shown up and done marvelous things. And one of the great lessons I believe, and I'm not trying to preach today on AfterBuzz, but I really believe that even, in our greatest rejections, oftentimes that can be God's direction. And I've just learned sometimes I'm a driven person. If a door gets shut, I'm going to keep knocking. And I think you can knock a little bit, but at some point it's like, I think that door's shut for a reason. And what I've just learned so far in this little 1.5-year journey is that when doors shut, man, it's because God's opened up a bigger door over here. And just learning how to trust and not to worry through all of it. So that's a long answer, but yeah.
No, I loved it. So when you do struggle, what is the first thing that you do? Is it like, I'm going to pray, or I'm going to call a friend at the church and talk this out? Like, what's your process?
I think all of those things are things that I've done. And I'm 31 now, and I think about this past year. I'm different from 1 year ago. I think about 29 to 30. I was different. You know what I mean? Like, every year I think there's growth taking place. And so process, I think, continues to change. It's always me going to Jesus first. I don't always get that right, but that that needs to be my, Lord help me prayer, talking about it. There's a beautiful story in the book of Mark where Jesus is on this boat and he's in this storm with all of his buddies, and they get out into this storm. It's a crazy storm, and the guys are freaking out. They're panicking. They're worried. We're going to drown. We're going to die. The ship's going under. The business is going to fail. The marriage is over. Whatever. The dream's going to die. They're going to die. And they're going, where's Jesus? Where is Jesus? And they go and they find Jesus. You know where he is? He's down on the bottom of the boat sleeping. And it's almost like, it almost makes you feel like, that's rude, man. Like, how are you sleeping through this? And I really believe that the story's not in the Bible to make you think that God's absent or being rude. I think the stories in the Bible let you know that God's not surprised by anything that you're going through. And you actually serve a God who can sleep in the midst of storms. And maybe, just maybe, when you get out into a storm, maybe your first knee-jerk reaction should be, I'm going to model what Jesus did. Instead of striving, worrying, freaking out, I'm going to rest through this storm. I'm going to trust God. And so I'm trying to learn that when I get into moments where like I have no idea how to get out of this, I'm trying to take on the posture of rest more and more.
Yeah.
Jesus, take the wheel, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you, Carrie Underwood.
Your wife gave a beautiful message, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So you can check it out, the Vous Church podcast.
Yeah.
She is the star of the show. No offense. I know it's named after you.
She is a legend.
So
She is the secret weapon. Don't tell everybody.
The lovely Dawn Cherie.
She's not just beautiful, folks. She's a world changer. She's amazing.
I think you gave a great description of her on the show. You said she's independent and people just love she makes everyone better by being around her.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful partner to have in your life. So
No, she's phenomenal. She's confident. She's beautiful. She loves people. She's serious about her faith, but she's fun. She's an encourager, and she's deep, man. I mean, she's very, very deep. I love her.
She gave a great message on waiting on the Lord.
Yeah.
So she was saying that you don't, I would love for you to explain this on a faith basis. How she was saying that you don't pray and worry, or you don't hope and worry, because they're opposites. You either need to hope, or you're going to worry, one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think what she talked about in that message, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think it was the last Sunday of the year, and it was, while you're waiting, that life really happens while we're all waiting, right? Like that, we all want highlight moments, and highlights are cool. I mean, we all want to have, it's fun. But like today, we're doing an interview, and like this is a moment, but.
It's a highlight for me.
Well, no.
Hey.
I love you. You're a legend. But whatever. It's like the cameras are on, the mics are on, but like no one saw that you are doing your job and you're working and you're sitting in a room and you're getting information.
And the roof is leaking in this room right now because it's pouring cats and dogs.
It's raining. I mean, you're doing whatever it takes, and so it's like everyone can just turn on and go, oh man, Megan's like, oh, she's got this. It's all the highlights. You're like, you don't understand. Like it's the things I'm doing outside of this moment that even creates these kind of moments. And so it's the wait. And what do you do while you wait? Do you worry while you wait? Do you freak out are you discouraged? And I just think if that's going to be the posture you take on, you're going to have a miserable life, because life is not about mountaintops. Life's about the journey. And as soon as you get to one mountaintop, you're like, oh, this is cool. Wait, there's another one. There's always another climb. And so I think she talked about in that message is going, hey, what kind of posture can you take on? Let me tell you what waiting doesn't look like. Waiting does not look like worry. Only thing worry changes is your blood pressure. Yeah. Not changing. It's not adding anything. It's not solving anything for you. It's not making your life better. It's not bringing you peace. It's bringing you chaos, When you're waiting, I'm saying that doesn't mean that you're just wasting time. Waiting, you can actually walk in the ways of God, and you can actually find all sorts of growth on the inside. Maybe you don't have your dream job yet. Maybe you haven't met the man of your dreams yet. But man, you can still be the best version of you while you're waiting. You can learn more about you. And I think before God does something through you, he does something in you. And so that in you part is the waiting part.
Beautiful message. I was listening to a bunch of your teachings on the Sandcastle Kings. Yeah. So you wrote a book of the same name, and then you kind of broke it up into different weeks over the podcast for Vous Church. So what were the 4 different sandcastles that we're all building?
So I wrote, that's my very first book ever, Sandcastle Kings. Hello, look at that, ladies and gentlemen.
With all my tabs, so taking notes.
You are amazing. This is Barbara Walters, folks. Look at
her.
She's going in. It was my first book that I got to write, and what was fun is, I'm working on another book right now, but this book is based on one chapter of the Bible, Luke chapter 7, but really it's written to an audience that might not believe in Jesus or wonders what is Christianity about? What's Jesus all about? And I think there's a lot of misconceptions. I think a lot of people think that religion or faith or Christianity especially is just about morality. It's not really what the message is about. The message is about that none of us are moral enough, but God loves us anyways, and he's got a plan for us, and he wants to save us, and he's got grace for us. And Sandcastle Kings takes this one chapter of the Bible, Luke chapter 7, there's 4 different stories, and I think each one of those stories is what I call as a common castle. Sandcastles look beautiful. We spend a lot of time on them, but we all know that, you know, the waves are going to come, or the rain's going to fall, or a 2-year-old's going to, you know, stumble upon you, and it's going to come. A football's going to be thrown. That thing comes down because it's built on sand. And a lot of times, I think in our society, I know I'm guilty of it. We try to build these lives that look amazing, look sharp, that seem secure, but at the end of the day, really what it is that it's just a sandcastle, and we're calling ourselves kings. And life happens. Life comes quickly. Storms, we can't prevent them. We can prepare for them by making sure that we build on the right foundation. And so the 4 kind of common castles that I say is, first story, I talk about the sandcastle of self. We think if we can better ourselves, man, if I get the right job, if I can go to school there, if I can have the right body, if I can, you know, you go to Barnes & Noble right now, what's the biggest section there? Self-improvement, you know what I mean? And so we're all trying to improve ourselves. Nothing wrong with improving yourself. It's just, if that's your end all, I always say a good thing becomes a bad thing when it becomes the foundational thing. Improving yourself is a good thing. That can't be the basis of your life, because we all know that one call from the doctor, didn't matter how much greens you ate, doesn't matter how much you spent time in the CrossFit gym. Cancer doesn't care about CrossFit. You know what I mean? Like, life happens hard, and so people fall apart because they're going, wait a minute, I deserve better than this. And it's like, yeah, I know, like, you did awesome for yourself, but it was not enough. You make a terrible God. You can't satisfy yourself. You can't complete yourself. The other sandcastle is the sandcastle of others. This is one I fall into. I got a great wife. We're talking about her right now. And a lot of people believe the lie that some person's going to complete me. It's just not true. People compliment us. Nobody is meant to be your God. And if I'm not careful, I can put my wife into a position and go, man, babe, your job is to satisfy me. Your job is to complete me. And she can try her hardest. But ultimately, I've got holes all in my life, and she's going to pour into me. And guess what? Those holes I'm just going to leak out. And it's going to leave her frustrated because she can't be enough. And it's going to leave me challenged because I'm going, why aren't you enough? And so many people live life going, my boss, my husband, my spouse, my kids, you know? And people are wonderful, wonderful treasures, but they make terrible gods. They weren't designed to do it. And so I think it's a sandcastle that it falls apart. What do I do if my wife gets sick? And what do I do if she passes away? Is life over for me forever? I just don't believe that's what God has for us. I believe that God says, I want to be your foundation. The other sandcastle is the sandcastle of religion. Religion is, you know, if I do enough good things, God will owe me. If I do enough bad things, God will reject me. I don't believe that, man. Jesus didn't come to institute religion. He came to establish a relationship that we would trust. And as we trust him, he takes us through the valley. As we trust him, sometimes things don't go the way we want. But we've decided that even in the hardest moments, we're going to trust that this God is good. This God's got a bigger and better plan than we can see or imagine. And we're not living for the here and now. We're living for the ever after. And the last one is the sandcastle of this world, which is however you want to, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll, you know, the things of our flesh, whatever feels good, I'm going to do that. And that's going to bring me peace. And we all know that, you know, the Bible says sin's pleasurable for a season. Don't get me wrong. You can have a good time, but at some point we know, man, I feel empty. I feel like I'm missing something. I always say if it's not fun in the morning, it's probably not fun ever, you know? But I just think that whole book's about it's challenging us as a society. I think that all of our issues kind of fall into one of those places. And I think a lot of people think Christianity is just about that last sandcastle, beds, whatever that is, you know? But no, I mean, I think there's a lot of good people that are really moral people, but they're building a sandcastle and they don't even know it. And so I know someone asked me the other day, go, Rich, do you ever deal with those things? I was like, yeah. They're like, which one? I go, all of them.
Yeah.
They're like, when? I'm like, I don't know. Every minute of the day, different moments. I'm like, wait, like, I'm trying to make it all about me, or I'm trying to put it on the other person, or hey, God, look at me. I'm doing the right stuff here. Don't you see me? Like, show up, man. Like, it's the wrong motivations.
What an amazing message. I love that. Speaking of sex, drugs, rock and roll, you have a few friends in that arena. I'll stick to the rock and roll part. So Kim and Kanye, you are friends with and married. Kind of developed a relationship with the whole family, it seems like. We saw you show up on Keeping Up with the Kardashians a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
And there was, I guess, a dinner scene or a lunch scene where you were with Courtney and Scott. And Courtney's like, "What? You guys are so inspirational. Like, Scott had a great time at church.
Yeah.
Like, lifting up his hands." And unfortunately, they've broken up. Have they sought you out to just for some counseling or some comforting words?
No, I mean, I think I'm good friends with both of them. You know what I'm saying? So we chat frequently, and I love both of them, and they're on a journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy in life to look at people and look at one chapter of their life and go, oh, that's what they're defined by. And I just come on,
Right.
There's a full story being written, and I just never ever want to be a person who's put in a period where God's just placing a comma. You know what I mean? That their story's unfolding and they're figuring it out, and they're both lovely, amazing, cool, gracious, fun people, and I believe in them and I am for them, and I'm thankful for them, and yeah, they're awesome.
There was an awesome moment in, I think it was last week's episode of Rich in Faith, where Dawn Cherie was comforting a single mother, Nadine. So that was kind of reminding me of Courtney's situation. And we got to see what Dawn Cherie would say to a single mother. But what kind of words would you say to comfort a single mother?
Well, I think for any single parent, I think, what a hero. I think raising a child in general is one of the most noble, admirable, awesome things you can ever do. And I think it's really, really tough, near impossible, even when you have a whole lot of help and you've got, both people there together. But it's even more challenging, I think, when you're doing it on your own. And so I think for anybody out there who's trying to raise kids on their own, I would just encourage them, saying, stick in the fight. It's going to be worth it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it can be frustrating at times, but I'm telling you, there's a legacy that's going to live on there. And I think the way that we got to realize is that our kids, they're watching us. Mm-hmm. And it's typically in our greatest challenges where we have the opportunity to make the biggest impact. I've just learned even in my life, it's not in those it's in those valleys where it's like, all right, now let's see what commitment. You don't know if you're committed until you actually face crisis. And you don't really know what's in you until you start to get squeezed. If you squeeze an orange juice comes out. We all love orange juice. We all love apple juice. The pressure is what's bringing out the gold inside of it. And it's in these moments where we face real pressure that we discover what we're actually made of. And so I think for any single mom that's listening today, or a single dad that's listening today, I can only imagine how tough it is and how challenging it is. But stay strong, speak to yourself, declare things over yourself, get in God's word, and be encouraged, because as you get squeezed, I actually believe there's something great inside of you, and you're going to change someone's life. But, I think Courtney and Scott are both just amazing parents, and they're both involved in those children's lives, and they're doing an awesome job.
That's great. Another famous friend who we saw in some photos from your Malibu Sandcastle Kings party that you had at that fun Malibu house. Justin Bieber was there.
Yeah.
So he's been doing so much better as far as what the public can see lately. And he put out this great new album, Purpose. Has he been speaking with you at all about things that he's going through and growing? And did he talk to you at all about things he wanted to include on the album and what it was about?
Yeah, once again, Justin is just I think probably the most talented guy I know, man. Just anything he puts his hand on, you're like, dude, you're so much better at that than me. He can do anything. And I just think that, like all of us, he's just on the journey, Mm-hmm. And I'm always proud of him. I love him. I'm always for him. And I'm not his pastor. We're buddies. We're friends. Mm-hmm. And the album, of course, is fire. You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't like this music right now? It's beautiful stuff. And he's, of course, busy. But I think that whenever we chat, it's always words of encouragement on both sides. You know what I'm saying? He encourages me immensely. He says the sweetest and kindest stuff. And that's what I think friendship is. Friendships, the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another. And we need people in our life. And we go through different seasons. We go through hard moments. And where you're at today does not necessarily mean where you're going to be at tomorrow, good or bad. But I just believe my current situation doesn't have to dictate my future destination. And so I don't want to speak and live. If I'm in a valley, I want someone to come around me and go, hey, there's potential in front of you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can go further. You can go faster. I don't need someone to say, well, you might as well just camp out here and be done. And so I hopefully, and with all my relations, with all my friends, that's the voice that I am. And regardless of what their behavior is or not is, I'm still going to be a friend. You know what I mean? I'm still going to be loving people.
When you say, I have heard you say a lot of times, I'm for them. When you say I'm for them, what do you mean?
Yeah, I just think that people need to, like, we get so caught up in stuff like Christianity, you know, what's the fruit of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. It's not being right. I think a lot of people, Christians, we'd rather be right than be kind. You know what? I'd rather be kind than be right. And when I say I'm for people, like I'm for people, especially my friends, the people that I have a relationship with. Like, I want to support you. Whatever you're trying to do, I want to be a voice of encouragement. Does that mean that we're not having challenging conversations? For sure we're having challenging, but those are private conversations. You know what I'm saying? Like my dad always said, when it comes to people's lives, you know, you celebrate people in public and then you have the tough conversations in private. And I've always tried to model that, you know, whoever it is, if it's famous friend or not a famous friend, you know. Our church, our life is not about we want to reach all people. We're for all people. We're for people, them discovering their purpose, them deepening their relationship with God, them fulfilling their dreams, what they believe they're put on this earth for. I want to hear that. I don't want to just dictate and tell them that. I want to say, well, what's in your heart, man? Well, I'm for you. And I think sometimes that's more powerful than most people can realize, that we just need friends. We need encouragers. I know I do. I think I heard like a statistic the other day, like, you know, for every negative thing, you need like 4 positive things or something said to you. And I just think about my life, and so much of my life, there was just people that were there, even when I was messing up, and even when I still mess up, just going, man, I believe in you. You can do better. There are better days in front of you. And so I'm just hoping at the end of my life, when people go, you know, who was Rich Wilkerson? It's not how big was the church or how many people bought the book. It's going to be, he was a servant of God, he was a good husband, and he was a good friend. I think if I can do that, then that to me is a great legacy to leave.
A friend loves at all times.
Come on, you got it. You got it.
So speaking of the future, where do you see all of this heading in 10 years?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, like, we've never lived our life that way much. We've always been busy people. We've always put our head down to the plow and say, let's go. And we've always said, Jesus is our message and people are our heart. We've been saying that for 8 years. You know what I mean? Like, literally those phrases. And this is really cool that today I get to come and talk to you, and you know, maybe next year you want to talk again. Maybe next year it's like, you don't want it. This world it moves so quickly. And so for us, it's not really about the outworking as much as it's like the inward thing that God's doing in the community that we're forming. So where's my heart? My heart's with our church, with our community. My heart's going, I'm in Miami. I think God's doing something really special there. I think we're seeing a lot of people that would never really have come to church starting to come. I'm excited about that. But I don't have like quantity goals and like we got to be at this mark. We just don't think that way. We're just like, the journey itself is the destination. This is awesome. And what I just keep learning is that God does exceedingly immeasurably more than I could ever ask or think. Every step of the way, it's like, whoa, like, didn't see that coming. That was cooler and better. And it takes a step of faith. It takes a risk. It takes being, you know, willing to get uncomfortable at times. But I don't know, in 10 years, hoping that my marriage is even better in 10 years, hoping that there's some kids in our life, hoping that our church is continuing to flourish and that people's lives are being impacted with hope and with faith and with love, and that the message of Jesus is being proclaimed, and hoping that this world that we live in, hoping we can come to some better places, that even where we disagree, we don't have to disrespect each other, hoping that we can spread some more love, put more faith out there, bring some more light to darkness. I think this world right now has just got a lot of, you know, it's heavy. There's a lot of things you turn the TV on, it's like drama, worry, fear. And it's just, when I sense all that, I feel all that. And I just want to be a voice that's trying to encourage and trying to say, I know it's tough and I know we're in some challenging times, but best days are in front of us. We can smile in the face of adversity. The joy of the Lord is our strength, and we can love each other. And unity is something special that we need to work for and fight for.
Oh, how beautiful. Pastor Rich, did you stay up all night practicing that?
No, come on. This is awesome.
So you're saying hopefully in the future, you've got a family. And for next week on Rich and Faith, we're going to be seeing, and I guess you all be discussing your infertility struggles. Yeah. You know, and that's one of those kind of things, you know, for my wife and I, and even more so for my wife, but like, it's a challenge that we've been dealing with for a lot of years, that we were silent about for a lot of years in terms of with people. Some people knew, but about a year ago, right before actually, or maybe even in production of the show, Dawn Tree just made a conscious decision that she thought, you know, I don't know why I've gone through this, but maybe I'm going through this to
encourage some people who are going through it as well, to say what we're saying right there. Like, of course we want to have a baby, and of course a baby is an incredible gift from God, but guess what? If we never have a biological baby, God is still our all in all. He's still a good God. He's still for us. We still have more than enough. We're not living for a blessing. We're living from a blessing. But we felt like it was necessary. And probably be some critics out there saying we're exploiting something, but it's actually the opposite. It's actually going, we're wanting to share this to try to encourage other families, other people. Twofold. Number one, if you're dealing with this exact same thing, there's hope. Be encouraged. But number two, I think sometimes there's this misconception, right? If you're a person of faith, that life's just perfect, white picket fence and hey, it's not true. Like that's a big part of why we do this show, is like going, we got to get past that stuff, man. Like, we are all real people on a journey. Maybe the manifestation of our struggle is different, but we all struggle with something. We're all challenged with something. We've all got a storm somewhere. We've all got an obstacle somehow. How we get through those things, that's really the difference for most of us, what carries us through. And so for us, once again, it's our faith in God. And we just feel like if we want people to get vulnerable, if we want people to find healing ever in their life, we're going to have to get vulnerable first, and we're going to have to expose our challenges first. And hopefully some of our pain can be somebody else's medicine, somebody else's healing.
Well, as an aunt to 2 adopted children,
Let's go.
I think that, that's not the worst thing in the world.
Oh, no.
It's really going to be amazing if that's how the way it goes.
My wife and I, since we've been together since we were 17, we got married at 22, but we've always said we're going to adopt. And even this past Christmas break, we just had some really, we're going to do that. You know what I mean? That's in our heart it's always been in our heart to do. It's just been the timing of when. But no, I mean, there's so many kids out there that need a home and need a place, and what an opportunity we have to be able to bring people into our home and love them. So I think there's something really special and beautiful about it. I mean, that's really the story of the gospel too, that we were adopted by God. So I don't know, it's exciting.
And your wife has an adopted brother, yes?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, she does.
It's in the family, Rich.
Come on.
I'm feeling good
Megan,
vibes.
you're like Diane Sawyer. You've done like,
I'm trying.
This is amazing.
Well, now comes the tough questions. These are the extras that didn't really fit into any of the categories that fall into the bullet points, but we're going to ask you the tough questions that a pastor gets.
Let's go.
This is for all our non-believers out there.
Let's do it.
We're talking to you, folks. All right. Well, first of all, this is a fun one. Where's this fashion sense coming from? Because I think you're a very fashionable guy, and people aren't used to seeing that at church.
Thank you. I don't know. Like, once again, it's like that whole thing. Like, the gospel message is about the inside. It's not the outside in. The change happens from the inside out. That's why, like, I think part of my message is like, you don't know what's happening on something. You have no idea. A seed gets planted. It goes under the dirt. Dirt goes on top of it, and you start to water it, and then it's God's timing, right, that brings that seed to fruition, and you start to see growth, you start to see life. And I think too many of us, we get so impatient with the seed that's been planted, going, why doesn't he talk this way? And and it's just going, man, like, that's up to God. Like, our job is to plant seed, water seed, and love people. God makes it grow. And so things like clothes, I don't know. I like clothes, but I've never thought of myself as a fashionable guy. And so I appreciate the comments that some people say. And I've got a lot of friends that obviously are serious about fashion and are really, and I talk to them like, I have no idea. I just like these jeans, you know what I'm saying? And but so I think for church wise, there's no strategy, and it's just like, we're just being real. We're just going, this is how we dress. And so as we dress, I think that inadvertently, that's for a lot of people, I think from the outside coming in, it just feels more normal. It's like, oh, it's one of those easy ways for them to kind of feel connected, you know what I mean? For them to feel like they can relate a little bit. So for us, there's never been a big strategy. You could wear a suit and tie, but someone the other day says, you don't look like a preacher. I was like, what do preachers look like? It's like, I don't know like what that looks like as a kid. I guess it's a suit and carrying a big Bible around all the time. I got a Bible on my phone, I got a blazer on today, so I'm trying.
The future is now, people. The future is now. The Bible's on Pastor Rich's phone.
Come on now. Got the U version.
We got a digital version.
Absolutely.
So, do you ever get any flack for being like a cool guy, like dressed as cool? Like, are people criticizing you for vanity or anything crazy like that?
I think anytime, I mean, I think there's once again, it's all like in stages. Like, when we started this kind of youth ministry at my dad's church. We're in the urban area. It's a tough, challenged area. We were 22, 23, but we just wanted to reach people. We just thought, man, I want to create a church that you don't have to endure, but you can enjoy. You know, I want to create a church that you don't have to go to, but you want to go to. And I've always found the message of Jesus so compelling and beautiful. It's called good news. I think sometimes we forget that because people look like they're really angry when they're sharing it, you know? But it's good news. Why is it good news? It's like, because it's the best news ever. And like, that's part of the challenging part of why it's so provocative, because it sounds too good to be true. And I don't know, I was always excited about that. So when we started our Tuesday night Bible study, it was called The Rendezvous. And I just called it The Rendezvous because I felt like that was more compelling than come to Trinity Church. You know, I mean, not Trinity Church is an awesome name, but Rendezvous just seemed a little bit less threatening. Rendezvous just means the meeting place, and we're going to meet with God, meet with others. But from day one, we were always, as kids, we were silly, you know what I mean? And I look back at some of that stuff, I'm like, what was I was an idiot, you know what I'm saying? But it was all with the right motivation, the right heart to reach people. And we always had funny, crazy tactics and strategies and unconventional ways of trying to get people to come to church. And so there was always criticism. And I just think every year as I've grown, there's been new supporters, but there's also been new level of voices of critics. And, you know, as I get older, you know, I want to do a better job even with that. Like when I was younger, I used to kind of get frustrated or angry because, yeah, you want to be understood or you don't know the whole story. And now more and more, I try to listen. I try to seek out if there's any truth in it. I try to consider it. And then I go, all right, I'm gonna keep this thing moving. Like I got a couple voices in my life, a couple key voices. I got a father, I've got a pastor, we've got a board of directors, we've got best friends. Like those are the voices that I want to, if they're sensing stuff, if I'm off somewhere, I want to know, you know what I mean? Like, but I want to do that out of a relationship that someone's for me, you know what I mean? And who has my best interest in mind. And I'm just learning to do a better job at not responding, not reacting, but I want to try to listen. I think Jesus he would sit there and he'd even listen to his critics, and somehow he had grace for his critics. And I want to get to a place where I'm not getting bitter, I'm getting better. And so, yeah, there's always criticism, but if you want to try to do anything significant, you better be ready for that.
That's true. That stuff's tough to take.
It is, you know, but
haters.
I think I know why. I think more and more as I get older, it's like I know what I'm supposed to be doing on this earth. And there's a lot of people that can cater to, you know, the Christian huddle, and I'm not mocking that, like, but I want to try to reach to some other places that God's put me in for some reason, to say, hey, there's a God who's for you, there's a God who loves you, let me tell you about Jesus. And God somehow has given us grace to be in those places where people have been able to open up with us, and I don't think they haven't felt judged, and they've been really interested. And so if I got to do that and be criticized by Christians, I'm not living for the applause of Christians or for the other. I'm living for the applause of one, you know, which is God. So, yeah, you know what I mean? I think as I get older, I get even more focused and dialed in on, like, this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I understand that people don't always understand it, and I want to be understanding towards them, but I also got to run my race. And the only thing worse than, you know, running your race is trying to run somebody else's race. I mean, the only thing worse than, you know what I mean, is like looking over. You can't run forward if you're like, well, what do you think? Yeah, that's the lane that God's put us in. He gives you grace for your race.
Good point. Okay, let's give you another hard one. Let's hear. All right. Well, I did a lot of these. Let's see. I'll do a fun one. Another fun one. I'm going easy on you today, Rich.
You're amazing, Megan.
So you're super into the arts. You had Kanye. You asked him to design the cover of your book.
Yeah.
What is so important about the arts to you?
I just think it's languages of our culture. I don't know. I've always connected with that stuff. Once again, I wouldn't call myself an artist, and I even get scared calling myself a creative, but I know I've always cared about those things. I don't know. I've always loved song. I've always loved dance. I've always loved paints. I've always loved poems. I've always loved a story. I love a movie. You know what I mean? And I think there's a whole lot of people that connect that way. And for me, I want to try to, I think whatever we avoid, darkness tends to invade. I think sometimes, I guess my challenge sometimes with the church is going, we got to quit running away from everything, and you've got to at least be able to stick in the conversation. I'm into conversations, you know what I mean? I'm not into going, you're wrong. I'm into, let's go on the journey. Like, let's talk. Like, I can learn a lot from you. You can learn a lot from me, but I want to be in the conversation. And I think a lot of spaces at times, it's really easy for us to cross our arms and go, everything's wrong, movies are bad, and that's the wrong kind of music, and, you know, the devil's in the clothes. It's just like, all right, well then why don't you step back into the space and try to create something better, be a part of it? Because these are things that people are connecting with, because it's saying something, there's a message behind it. And so that's all long story, is going, I don't know, I've always had that kind of I've always loved design. I've always loved imagery. I've always loved movie. I've always loved story. And so when I wrote this book, that the message on there to me, you know, Megan, is like, it's everything to me. It's like, I always say that content there, it's life. I think it's life changing if you allow yourself to read it with an open heart and go there. And so when I was like, I want to put this book out, I was like, I want the cover to be able to, you know, set up the content, and I want the cover to be something strong and bold and communicate something. And so love him or hate him, you know, I think when we look back on history in 2015 right now, one of the greatest artists of our generation will be Kanye West. Whether you like his message or if you like his art, in terms of that people have connected with, that people have come around. And when I think about church history, going all the way back to, you know, the Catholic Church, for instance, when it called upon itself to build, you know, the Vatican and the Sistine Chapel, they called on Michelangelo. Michelangelo wasn't even a believer, but he was the best artist of the day. And so he got up on his back and he started to do his greatest masterpiece, which is the Sistine Chapel ceiling. And now you can go from all over the world. You can see evangelical Christians. You can go see with Catholics. You can walk in there. Everyone's like, oh, the presence of God. Look at that. It's the greatest art. And all that's different is that hundreds of years have passed and people don't understand, you know, who Michelangelo was. But I'm just going, why the church do that? They go, we want the best artist to help us tell the greatest story ever. And so for me, that was my thought process. I thought there was something really kind of cool to go, this is a timeless story, it's a timeless message, and I want to put art around it because I value that. Kanye's a friend of mine. I thought it was a cool partnership. And I also thought, man, this is a book that I'm writing for kids in LA on Fairfax right now. I'm writing for, you know, kids in Chicago. I'm writing for the kids in, you know, Opelika in Miami right now. Writing for kids in Harlem at my brother's church. And some of them, I don't know if they're ever going to hear about Jesus or if they're going to ever read something and take the time to even consider Jesus. But maybe, just maybe, if they know that Kanye did the artwork on the book, they'll go, well, that's different. What? And just maybe, they'll dive into that book and they'll find something that changes them forever. So, yeah. Beautiful. With that, yeah.
Who are some of your other favorite rappers?
Oh, favorite rappers. Oh, I got to get all the edited versions, number one. So.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
I don't ever know what they're saying. You know, I like all sorts of types of music. For sure, I like hip hop. I definitely, I'm rocking the Bieber album quite a bit right now. I think Drake is very, very talented. I love what he does. But yeah, I've always liked music, you know what I'm saying? And so sometimes the messaging and some of these stuff is, I'm going, I don't align with that. And so I can't all the way go there. But once again, applaud the talent that's on the inside of them, the gift that they have. So.
How about favorite movies?
Favorite movies, wow. I got a lot of favorite movies. I always say I think my favorite movie, Legends of the Fall. Do you ever see that? Brad Pitt.
Love. Phenomenal it's on my DVR film. Right now.
Phenomenal film. You know what's another one of my favorite movies? Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh, so good.
What a beautiful story, right? And so just good. Amazing.
Oscar winner.
Was, right? Mm-hmm. I just saw The Martian over the holidays. I thought that was a really...
With Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How cool is he?
I know.
I just liked his attitude the whole time, right?
I actually didn't see that, but my boyfriend won't stop telling me that I gotta see it.
I was really impressed. I loved it. But Legend of the Fall is like one of my all time. The Sandlot, come on now. You know,
is that the movie where they're like forever? Yes.
Forever.
My boyfriend says that every time he leaves the house.
Yeah, it's amazing film.
Let me see if there's one more hard question we can get you with here. Not trying to get you, but, you know, one hard pastor question. Oh, okay. This is the best thing to end on. You're going to love it. What is your answer when people ask you, how could God let this happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big question. I think that you got to unpack that question because, you know, the moment that you say, how could you let God, let this bad thing happen, is the moment that, number one, it sounds like you believe in God. Mm-hmm. So if you believe in God, now we're having a different type of discussion. I hear people use that argument lots of times and go, there can't be a God because if there is a God, why would all this bad stuff happen? Okay, well, if you want to have that conversation, I think we're going to come into that conversation under the idea that you do believe in a God. But then the flip side of that whole thing is that the moment you start giving, consequences and rewards to God, when are you going to start giving God some rewards? There's a lot of pretty great things God's doing. The sun's not up today, but
not here, but everywhere else.
But I'm just saying, there's a lot of things that we go through every day, all the time, that we don't give praise to God ever. We never go, man, there's so many good things in this world. There's got to be a God. You get what I mean? So like, there's that flip side of the coin. However, with all that said, I'm not trying to get into apologetics. I think that's a very deep, real question that I've felt before, that I don't always have and understand all the way. I think there's a theological answer. The theological answer is that I think that God created a perfect world. I think that he created man and woman, and he gave us free choice. He didn't force his love upon us. He doesn't force us to love him back. He says, here, I love you. I'm for you. I've given you great things. Now you can respond to my love. And I think from the very beginning, we rejected. We tried to achieve on our own. We didn't respond. And with that, I believe sin entered the equation. Sin just means missing the mark, not following God's plan. And with that, there's a whole lot of challenges. And I think all of us, wherever we're at on the theological landscape, we go through these moments in life where maybe some tragedy happens or something dark happens, and maybe a massacre, one of these shootings takes place. And you can be going through life and everything's good, and you go to your Starbucks every day and you got your workout plan, you got your friends, you got your movie night, but then all of a sudden something really bad happens, and it's like, whoa, for a moment, it's like the haze kind of settles. You're like, wait a minute, something is really off here. This place is broken. This place is broken. And I think that we all at different times agree to that this world is broken, that however it was designed, it got broken. I believe that man broke it. I believe that God sent Jesus to restore it. I believe the only way that we see restoration is through faith in Christ, and that's how change begins. But I also believe in the ever after. I believe in a heaven one day, that one day, as we leave this earth, that we're going to see restoration truly come back. We're going to see the world that he designed. We're going to see the utopia, the paradise, the heavens that he had always designed for us. And I think that people that are in a tough time right now, that are going, I want to believe in God, but I'm so angry, I'm so hurt, I would just ask them to, number one, be real with that feeling, speak that out, not to everyone, but I'm saying to speak that out to God, going, God, I want to believe, but I don't believe, or I want to believe, but I'm really angry. How could you have let my son die? How could you have let my husband leave me? How could, whatever that thing is. Because what I think about our God is that he's so compassionate, but he wants to start with you from a place of being real. There's a beautiful story in the Bible, a guy coming to Jesus, going, can you heal my daughter? He goes, do you believe? He goes, can you help my unbelief? And Jesus does the miracle. And what he's saying is, I want to believe, but I don't. And I think that's a beautiful moment when you can actually be real with yourself to say, I've got these questions. I think too many people have the questions, but they take them to all the wrong people. I think wherever you are listening to this right now, stop if you have the questions and direct them towards God. And allow yourself to stay in moments of uncomfortableness without an answer long enough to see how God begins to reveal himself to you. I'm in a place in my life where we've dealt with real challenges in our family, death, divorce, go through it, loss. And I've had those questions, and I just keep coming out that God's faithful, that God doesn't leave me. It's some of those moments where I'm in my lowest moment, most angry moments, where God has been closest to me. And so I'm not God. If I could understand God fully, then he wouldn't probably be God. And so I try to have faith that even outside of my little box and my little mind, that he's working something out bigger than what we can understand. And so a lot of answers for it. That's kind of where we're landing with it right now.
Beautiful answer.
Yeah.
Rich, high five. This was awesome.
You're amazing.
That was the greatest.
Thank you so much for letting me come.
What a great place to end. You guys, Rich in Faith airs tomorrow, Wednesday night.
You got to watch. You got to tweet.
Yes.
#Rich in Faith. Megan and I, we're gonna be live tweeting. I'm putting you out there,
Where are we live tweeting from?
But you guys have got to watch. We gotta put a voice behind this thing, and use the #Rich in Faith. 10 p.m.
And I
Central.
think even if you're not a person of faith, that this show is really inspiring and fun, and it's about family and love, and you'll love it. And it's two cool people in a city. It's a cool show.
Come on, I love you.
It's about people doing things.
You have the gift of encouragement. You know that, right?
I do.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Thank you. Okay, guys, so that is tomorrow night on Oxygen. Rich in Faith is at 10/9 Central. You guys can also get Sandcastle Kings at bookstores and Costco now.
Costco now.
There we go. And Vous Church Podcast, you guys can download that on iTunes, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Where can everybody find you on social media?
At Rich Wilkerson Jr. Jr. is just JR. So that's Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram.
And Instagram?
At Rich Wilkerson. Yeah, Instagram. At Rich Wilkerson Jr.
Perfect. He's a crazy Snapchatter, you guys. Get on there.
I love it.
Guys, you can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. It's all at Megan Stecher. It's MEGANSTECHER. Rich, thanks again. This was great.
Thank you so much, Megan. You're amazing.
You're amazing. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.